Hi all, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our look at the Emperor at war, with his confrontation with Drach'Nyen, the echo of the first murder. If you haven't seen my previous upload with the Emperor entering the war in the webway, then be sure to check that out first and then return back here. Assuming you've done that, then let's continue. As usual, spoiler warning to begin with, the events we are discussing today come from the novel The Master of Mankind, and it is a fantastic read, regardless of whether you're a more human favouring Emperor fan like myself, or the distant tool creating Emperor fan. This is a must read, because it's a novel filled with Emperor scenes and awesome Custodian Guard battle scenes. We get to see more than we ever had before of the Emperor and his Custodians, and it really delivers. As always, I really recommend you read the novel for yourself first, as that's not only how you get the most enjoyment out of them, but we also help to support Games Workshop and the great Black Library, because without them we wouldn't have all this fantastic lore to talk about. But be warned, by the time you finish the novel, you will definitely want to start a force of Custodians. It's just going to happen. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. So this battle is directly continuing on from where we left off last time, with the Emperor having left the Golden Throne and entered the webway to join his Custodians battling the limitless hordes of demons, whereupon he is being laying absolute waste to the demon scum. Be ready, Ra. My liege? The Custodian launched himself over the slumping form of the vulturish creature that had fallen to his final 6 bolts, hurling his spear back behind the front line and drawing his swords while still in the air. He landed by the Emperor, back to back with his master. Their blades wove a lattice of silver light, eviscerating everything that approached their edged web. Be ready. For what, sire? Ra's retinal display flashed its white sigil. He caught the returned weapon, spinning it with the force and speed of a rotor blade. I just love the way the Custodians, they just chuck their spears back to be reloaded and continue slaying in the Emperor's name without missing a step. You know, they're just destroying anything in their way and then catching their now reloaded weapon and continuing on without missing a beat. Just absolute badasses. The tunnel around them cracked and sparked with the strain of overworked generators. There, Ra. It draws near. The Emperor moved on, cutting, carving. He led his guardians into the very hordes of a mythological hell, and like the paladins of yore, they followed their king. Rare emotions spiced the Emperor's silent words. I sensed such purity of being, such pure, unadulterated malice. Ra weaved back from a swinging axe blade, returning a spear thrust that punched through the creature's scaled throat. He dared a glance left to Diocletian, seeing his kinsman hauling his own spear from the innards of a pot-bellied, horned grotesque, impaling a prize of rotted entrails. Flies droned around the decayed tangle, swarming at the loss of their hive. Even immortals could tire. Ra's breath soared between his closed teeth. Inside his helmet, sweat drew lines of wet fire down his face. His retinal display kept auto-dimming to compensate for the fire and light bursting into being with each fall of the Emperor's blade. I see only the horde, sire. He didn't like the rapt fascination in his lord's tone. Reveal thyself. The Emperor raised his blade, bringing it down in a crescent of fire. A tide of flame bellowed forth in an incinerating arc, bathing the ranks of Neverborn before him. Mortis ash blasted back in the windless air, coating the closest Custodians in the dust of dead demons. A shadow, a shape in the ash. A man, just a man, long of hair, dark of skin, tribally bearded, wearing jewellery of shaped bone and bearing a spear of napped flint, vine lashed to fire-hardened wood. A man wearing wounds almost as grievous as those he had inflicted upon so many others. Hundreds of spear slashes and swords cut his marked flesh. The freshest of the bloodiest showed on his chest, the legacy of Jaya's last blow. One man leading the ranks of howling madness behind him. The echo of the first murder. The Emperor's words broke into Ra's skull with crushing gentleness. The anathema was its sick, slick reply. Predators always revealed themselves in the seconds before they struck. Wolves howled as they chased. Sharks cut the ocean's surface with their fins as they hunted. Here the ashen silhouette moved through the Neverborn's ranks, lesser creatures parting before its too human tread. Whatever the creature's true form, it wasn't this muscled stone epoch war chief. It merely aped the form of the first humans. For the first terrifying time, Ra saw doubt flicker within his master's eyes. The sight flooded him with the unfamiliar taint of dread. "Sire," Ra whispered, "we should..." But the Emperor was gone. Monarch and demon ran at one another, sliding in and out of existence, outpacing their lessers on both sides of the battle. And the two entities, one the salvation of a species and the other its damnation, met blade to blade. Blood burst into the ashy mist. The Emperor arced. The warlord's body taut with the utter unfamiliarity of agony. 5 talons, each one the length and width of a spear, dripped red as they stood proud of the Emperor's back. Ra had heard tell that every man, woman and child saw a different face, a different skin tone, a different temperament when they looked upon the Emperor. The 10,000 had no experience of such an effect. To Ra's eyes, the Emperor was a man like any other. The custodians saw only their master. In that moment, as the claws ran red with his king's blood, Ra saw what the rest of the species saw. The boy who would be king, an old man, cloaked and hooded, life running from his cracked lips. A knight in his prime, maned with dark hair, crowned with the wreath of laurels. A barbarian warlord, barbarous and strong, grinning through teeth turned red with his leaking blood. Images, identities, men who once were, men he might once have been, men who had never drawn breath. The Emperor's boots left the misty ground. He barely even struggled as he was lifted, impaled by the 5 spearing talons. His sword fell from his gloved hand to disappear in the shrouding fog. "To the Emperor!" Ra screamed, the order loud enough that his retinal display blurred for half a second. To the Emperor's side. He ran, killing faster than he'd ever killed, energized by an adrenal cocktail of loyalty, hatred, and the alien touch of something nameless that tasted foul on his tongue. Not fear. No, never that. Surely never that. I got absolute chills when I read "To the Emperor" for the first time. A Custodes feeling fear for the first time at the mere thought of losing the Emperor, losing his king. Oh, just goosebumps right there. I am the end of empires. The fault wasn't Ra's own. It belonged to the silhouette in the ashes, the Emperor's killer, speaking by twisting the thoughts of the humans in its presence. A wrenching violation with crude, cruel fingers pulling at the insides of Ra's skull, forcing his thoughts to form the demon's words. "Kill it," Ra shouted, half an oath, half an order. The man shape turned in the settling ash, still holding the Emperor above the ground. The warlord clutched at the impaling arm. His telepathic voice was raw. "Stay back, all of you, stay back. I am your death," the creature promised the Emperor. Perhaps one day, but not this day. Gold light flared bright enough to blind the unshielded eyes. The Emperor manifested at Ra's side. Down on one knee, one hand clutched to his chest, hair hanging down to veil his features. Blood, human blood, no matter what the legend said, ran in runnels from the Emperor's sundered armour. Ra, the sending was thick with pain defiance. And then, Ra, he said, aloud, raising his eyes to meet his loyal custodian's horrified gaze. A blade ran through the Emperor's body, an ornate sword, as much sorcerous bone as metal, a weapon with writhing, shrieking faces soul carved upon the steel. The faces shrieked as they drank the Emperor's divine life. It thrashed as the Emperor clutched in its hands. It was alive, starving, its form rippling and growing indistinct. With a cry, the Emperor pulled the weapon free, unsheathing it from his own body. He hurled it from his grip, casting it aside with a surge of armour-boosted strength and devastating telekinetic force. Ra blinked once with the impact, feeling it as a thunder crack against his chest. He swallowed, finding himself unable to breathe. Blood streamed from his mouth, denying the passage of air. It was a blade through his body. It was a demon embracing him. It was a disease in his blood, eating at his bones. It was there, and it wasn't there. Everything and nothing. The custodian fell to his knees, hands curling around the impaling blade. The thwarted rage of the demon sent nerve pain lightning bolting through his fingers. Why? Ra asked his king. The Emperor stood tall once more, looking down, eyes cold. In that moment, Ra knew. The Emperor's words, spoken what felt like an eternity ago, flashed through his blackening mind, infusing his thoughts with red revelation. To illuminate you, the Emperor had once said. As they looked upon the wonders and sins of the galaxy's past, you will fight harder once you understand what you are fighting for. And now he knew. Ra, the one living soul shown the entirety of his master's dreams and ambitions, an enlightenment not gleaned for the purpose of waging war, but for this, to know the truth when all others believed in shadows and fragments, and to suffer that truth until it tore him apart. Ra rose on shaking limbs, leaning on his spear for support. The sword was gone now. The demon was within him, caged by his flesh, bound by his agony-drenched will. He felt its tendrils circling his bones, wrenching at them, thrashing in its need to reach the master of mankind. The creature, tunneling through his blood, would never stop, never die. It couldn't be destroyed, only imprisoned. The custodian didn't meet his sire's eyes. He didn't demand any explanation or apology. Ra was born to serve, raised to obey, and chosen for the greatest illumination preceding the darkest duty. Inside him raged a beast even the Emperor couldn't kill. The demon destined to end the Empire. Every step he took away from the Emperor, separating this demon from his master, would mean another day that the Imperium stood unbroken. The Emperor still bled, still clutched his wounded chest with one gloved hand. Blood flecked his lips. When all that remains is ash and dust, he said. Be ready. The sword rose and once more it fell. Fire tidal wave from its killing edge, immolating all in its path, clearing the way. The Neverborn, dragging themselves over the ashen remains of their kindred, tasted the same destruction. the Emperor spoke to Ra one final time, a single command heard by no other. Run. Ra, Drach'Nyen's golden gaoler, the sons of a water thief, obeyed the last command he would ever be given. He ran. Oh, a great passage of writing. I just wanted to read as much as I could without interrupting it. Now, while initially I must admit I didn't really like or understand the thought of the Emperor failing to kill a demon, when we have the Chaos Gods fearing him, it didn't make much sense to me. This demon appears to essentially be tied to the human race, the echo of the first human murder. It's worth noting though that the Emperor's father murder, his father was murdered by his uncle earlier in the book, is not the first murder. The Emperor states himself in the book that humans have been murdering each other for generations before this, but that was the first murder that had impact for the Emperor. What made him realise the human race needed a guide to set the rules, to set the laws. They needed a king. They needed an emperor. So, with the basis that the Emperor couldn't kill the demon due to it being bound to the human race, I can go along with that. So all he can do is imprison it, which he does. It also makes me wonder if he intentionally got himself impaled on the demon's claws, so to absorb its essence within himself. Every time I reread it, I get something new, but when he says maybe one day but not today, I really get the sense that he had it planned. He tanked the hit to achieve his goal. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but hey, that's the great thing about the lore. We can all interpret it ourselves however we feel. And let's not forget, as revealed in Old Earth, this whole strung out defense is to really enable Vulcan the chance of getting to Terra through the webway. It's not a battle the Emperor was expecting to win. He only left the Golden Throne because the Imperial forces were not able to hold out long enough. He had to buy more time for Vulcan to arrive with his doomsday device for the Golden Throne. The final counter should Chaos get through the portal into the throne room, delivering a blow from which the Chaos Gods would never recover. Check out my Vulcan upload on that if you don't know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, the Emperor knows the second Magnus has ruined the project and exposed his webway project to Chaos. The Emperor knows he can't complete this project anymore. And that ending with Ra, he's had his king impale a demon sword into his chest, and he's still completely loyal. He doesn't even contemplate anything else. He knows he has to run, so he does. As the rest of the Imperial forces slowly fall back to Terra to close the portal, Ra runs into the depths of the webway. That's a great finish, and a really great character throughout the book. I'd love to see a short story of Ra as he journeys deeper into the webway. There might already be one, I just don't know about it. I'll definitely have to have a look for that. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this novel? Are you planning on starting a Custodes army now? Was it worth the sacrifice to enable Vulcan to reach Terra? Or do you think the Emperor, should have just closed up shop, saved all those lives? As always, drop a comment down below to let me know your thoughts. A huge thank you to all of my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me. I really appreciate all of your support. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel continue to grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.